Fawcett, IT Director of Rainier Chamber of Commerce.
Past president.
Past president.
Yep.
Okay, we're recording now.
Okay, perfect. So yes, we'll probably have some more individuals join, I would assume, over the course of the next few minutes, but we will go ahead and get started, and we will share this and put this out there on social media. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Megan Fawcett, and I'm the president of the Rainier Chamber of Commerce. I see another individual on the line that I would like to give some kudos to, and that is Sarah Johnson, who is a member of the Clatskanai Chamber as well. So this is kind of in joint effort working together, and this was shared with both chambers. So Mark, we would just like to thank you for being here, taking the time to be present. My understanding is that you're on a 3-month contract through the Port of Columbia County to really help engage small businesses from a perspective for federal and state funding for small businesses. So thank you for being here today. It sounds like you are a real expert, and you've been on the job now for a few weeks, and word on the street is you are already helping people immensely. So pretty excited to have you here today. We have you slated for about a half an hour, 20 to 30 minutes of dialogue, whatever we kind of see appropriate. And then we'll allow individuals to kind of pop on and ask some questions. I know that we've got an open chat happening too. So just a reminder for those that are on the call, if you could please place your line on mute to allow all of us to be able to hear Mark, and then we'll open up some dialogue. So just take some notes, and then towards the end here, we'll open it up for some questions. But again, thank you, Clatskanai Chamber, for partnering with us, Natasha Parvey, Vice President for Rainier Chamber, for helping to put this all together, and Mark, it's all you. Take it away.
Well, great. As Megan mentioned, I'm very pleased to be working with the Port. As you know, the Port's mission is multifaceted, and the bottom line is to help grow and develop, local and businesses in the county and help spur economic development. And as you know, the Port is unique. I think in Oregon we have a lot of ports, and some of them with waterfront, some of them with airports, some of them with nothing. And in Columbia County, we have 51 square miles of port jurisdiction, where the port has a real responsibility to strengthen the economy, and that's part of how they were set up and the reason they were set up statewide. That said, the port's executive director and the commissioners are very interested in helping businesses. They know the pain that's out there. It's real, the challenges that people are having. And so they've asked me to help. And that's something that it's a privilege to be back in the county, where I've done a lot of work over the years and where I know a lot of people. So, we have federal programs. They're frankly limited. There will be more, I presume, that will happen, but a lot of businesses have taken advantage of small business administration loans, unemployment insurance, which is, to me, just sort of a disaster for us to have to say, oh, we're going to go to, unemployment as something to, help us all out. But that is now available for self-employed people and people that are small business owners, gig workers, and I think we all need to take advantage of that. The state has decided to, the legislature met, the E-Board, as they call it, a little while ago, and put together a small package. I think that Business Oregon is going to use $10-15 million statewide for businesses that didn't qualify for state or for federal assistance. That, don't quote me on this, but that'll be slow, in my opinion, given the way the state works. to be candid. In my mind, the way we're going to get through this is if we're all pulling together and working together. There's this, I was watching TV the other day, and there was this show on, it was like one of these Westerns, and I haven't seen Westerns in a long time. And you know, it's the solitary gunman out there, you know, shooting somebody always, and all alone, taking on the world, conquering the world. And we've had this sort of myth in American history lately of that's the way it is. And it's like the economists talk about the economic man, and we all are supposed to act in our own self-interest, and that will be the way to get things done. And the reality is that is never the way it worked. And the way it works was that people sacrifice their own self-interest to help the community and to help their neighbors. And in the county, that's, you know, as we pull together, there's going to be a lot of things we can do. And I want to be a part of helping coordinate some of that effort and coordinate bringing resources and, you know, finding solutions for people. So that's my introduction, and I'm I think here to listen more than to talk. So I would really be interested in talking about what the needs are, have you give me the lay of the land, and us talk a little bit about, you know, what solutions are needed and, you know, how we go about maybe working on that.
Okay, good. I would like to kind of open that up to those that are on the call that own a business in Rainier.
I have spoken to Mark quite frequently. Thank you, Mark, so much for all of your assistance and sharing of ideas. But I think the biggest issue for all of us is trying to negotiate what is the new normal going to be, because I'm anticipating this is a 12 to 24 month slog, as I'm calling it, that we're going to have to go through. I don't see social distancing being less than 6 feet unless we want everything to take off like crazy again. So we as businesses in our different iterations are going to have to figure out how do we make this all work. And I think we need to share with each other and spend a lot of time chatting and going, okay, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Because how do you still get your guests, no matter what kind of business you have, to come in, want to feel comfortable being there? People are going to have reduced incomes, so less money to spend possibly. And we as a community need to really work together to help each other figure out what our new normal is and how do we negotiate the ups and downs, and how do we get a hold of PPE supplies so that you can stay open.
So what do you see now is happening in that area? Anything?
So somebody else want to say something, or?
No.
Okay. So what I see in the supply chain, my biggest concern is in the restaurant industry, retail, anywhere where you're going to have high touch people walking in to your business. We have to be able to continue to get the cleaning supplies that meet the CDC guidelines. Clorox wipes do not meet CDC guidelines. And we may be able to get all this stuff to reopen 2 weeks, a month from now, 6 weeks from now, whenever it is that we're allowed to have more people into our businesses, etc. But what if you get open and 2 weeks down the road, you can't get supplies? You can't get masks because you're required to have masks on your employees. You can't get stuff to wipe your tables down, all your touch points if you're in retail, etc. Or you're going to have to shut down again because you can't meet the guidelines. And I think that's an issue that we all have to think about, that not being in a big hurry necessarily to open, even though we're all going to be chomping at the bit, but making sure that you have your supply chain, whether for us it's food, it's cleaning supplies, and in each individual business, we each all have different issues of what we need to be able to continue on a daily basis. And if we can't get everything on a consistent basis, can you open yet when you don't know if you can take care of your customer base.
Whoa. Somebody's typing. Mark, did you want to add anything to that? Has that been something that you've heard kind of holistically?
Yeah, I think the supply, that's what I'm hearing. The next big issues are the supply chain, and then people may want to open, and then they're, am I ready to? Can I? You know, am I going to make any money? Is anybody going to come in? And is there liability? Is someone going to sue me? I mean, it's just, that's why I go back to the stuff about how do we think, you know, how do we as chambers and local business owners, how do we band together and say, and maybe have our discussions internally about, okay, how are we going to do this? Are we going to move outside onto the street a little bit more? Are we going to, you know, how do we do this, and when do we do it, and do we do it together? And you know, we just may have to really,
you know,
have
the other list of questions I see for all of us is, we can open, and we figure out ways to have business stuff outside, so it's a little bit more open, people feel more comfortable, but we're in Oregon. So into September, October comes, we have pouring down rain, and that business model that you've been using now does not work. I think there are some alternatives of things that we can do. Denmark, for restaurants, people are buying small greenhouses and making them little seating table areas.
Oh, because they're closed. Yeah. Interesting.
Which I thought was kind of a clever thing. And I think that's the thing. We're going to have to be thinking outside of the box, because I don't see this being, whether you have a retail operation or a restaurant, that we're going to be able to up the amount of people that can come in anytime soon. It's going to be a minimum of 12 months. We have to get through another virus season. And unless we have a vaccine or they have some way to mitigate how to make people well from this, we're going to be in this 6-foot social distancing. And I think it's our new normal for a while. I also think that when you're talking about, can you open, you have to look at, if I open and I'm only doing 25% of my sales because I can only have X amount of people in, and I haven't figured out a way to have people order online, come pick up, whether you're retail, restaurant, or whatever, or you're doing that, but in smaller communities in particular, there isn't as much of a base. And if we as a community, for many of our businesses, we rely on people from other areas.
You know, and some of that, some people might, there are people who are going to be, I mean, like, you know, there's grocery stores who are now saying you cannot come in unless you wear a mask. And there's part of me that goes, I would like to go shop there and not, you know, there's some places, so there'll be another side of this too, as we are safe, and there are people who will, like, for say in the restaurant world, there are people who will want to come in and get out of the house, and someone else that's going to say, you know, home is just fine for me, thanks. And I'll, you know, I'll be at the curb, you know, in 10 minutes. But
I think the issue for everyone, I've been on some national calls on this, is that if you can only, they're talking California right now, in a week and a half, maybe being able to open with a 25% seating capacity, and 3 weeks later, a 50%. There's been some talk in Oregon, maybe starting with 25%, going to 50%. And that's capacity, whether you're restaurant, retail, whatever is considered your capacity. Can you really justify being open at 25%? You can at 50%, but I think as businesses, we want to be careful that we don't rush in and open before it really makes economic feasibility for us. And I'm not saying that anybody shouldn't open, because we all want to get open. We all want to be out there. But you need to look at the cold, hard dollars and cents. If I only have X amount of people coming in and I need to be at this level and I'm only at this level, I can't pay all my employees that I need to cover and everything else.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question? Those that are on the call, is there anyone that has gotten any assistance from, you know, the Small Business Administration or the PPP or any of these programs? Are people who have some of you, do you have that? Do you not have that? I'd be interested in knowing your experience.
Vicki, have you received, Mark or Vicki, with Corner?
No, so we don't qualify because we have lottery.
Okay.
Right. And you're Cornerstone, aren't you?
Excuse me?
Your place are you Cornerstone?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Why didn't you qualify? We got money even with lottery.
Because the percentages didn't work out for us.
Oh,
You have to have, you
Yeah.
know.
We're way over the percentage.
Yeah.
Right? So
sorry. I just wasn't.
Okay. So what have you done?
So we've just been closed from day one. There's not enough demand for to-goes in a town of 1,600 people with our road construction, no place to park. And there's just no way we can pay our bills.
Vicki, do you guys see yourself being able to do like a 25% thing? I thought I remembered seeing something, on Facebook about that would be a struggle for you as well. That seems pretty universal.
You know, minimum wage is going up to $12.25 in June. So, no, I can't.
and the restrictions that the state wants as far as allowing people in and out, and as far as the lottery goes, you can't pay somebody $12.25 an hour to stand.
Yeah.
All right, take names and do crowd control.
And what time they came.
Especially when you have half your restaurant closed. That's not,
I know. The only reason we can make lottery work is we're just going to convert the whole bar because we can't seat enough people in there anyway. If we convert the bar and do the 6 foot across, we have to have a bartender to pour for the restaurant anyway because of the number of drinks. So that's how we think it's going to work, to have that person to follow all the blasted lottery guidelines because it's crazy.
Yeah.
you know, and then all the CDC guidelines too. I mean, that's
How can a server do that? How can a server go to one table, go and wash her hands before she goes and pours coffee at the second table? That is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Especially when your hands are washed.
Yeah.
Yes, and you're going to pour coffee and just go to the next guy and pour coffee. How is that going to work?
Right.
And you have to change gloves every time you go to a new table,
That's just not even
even
gonna
if you're
work.
just taking orders.
That's not going to work.
well,
for us.
just look at the financial burden alone,
Yeah.
right? It's physically impossible. I mean, there's no way.
You'll never get coffee poured if you're the sixth guy down the road.
Right. It'll be cold.
Yeah.
You know.
So, okay. So I'm more, if I can just follow up on that, if you guys don't mind, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? You know,
Well,
for
we
your
saw a
situation, you say it again?
We saw a draft
the state
of
draft.
what they're thinking.
Yeah.
So, and we purchase from U.S. Foods, and so they're all across America. And so they're giving us information from Florida, from Maine, from,
New York, California. Yeah.
So they're doing webinars like every other day. They're just keeping us really informed of what other governors and other states are doing.
And plus, we've been getting information from the Restaurant Association of America and
Orla.
And we've been attending their webinars on a weekly basis on what's going on. So, and most people, 70% of people don't want to go to restaurants anyway.
64%.
Is it down to 64 now? Well, 6%, right?
They do not, you say?
Do not want to go to restaurants right now.
They don't feel comfortable.
Uh-huh.
So the trend is going to be curbside service.
I would always be comfortable in the Cornerstone. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
But that doesn't bode well for the restaurant industry as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
We're concerned about that.
I sat on a national call with the Independent Restaurant Coalition today. And the discussion this week and last week was 30% of restaurants will succeed. Maybe another 20% will make them, but we're in the independent world, which we are all part of. Probably 50% of us won't be here in another year, year and a half. That's a really depressing thought
That is,
to hear. How do we get through all of this? And these are a lot of the big mover and shakers.
yeah.
So, okay, others. We can come back to this. Let's have others talk about what assistance they've had, what frustrations they might have had.
Well, as far as I can tell, the assistance is not there, as far as I'm concerned. Because
I think you're right.
there's no assistance for small businesses. I mean, small businesses go. It never happens, right? Government makes all these promises and they don't deliver, right?
Right.
I never see a penny, right? So, and plus there's too many restrictions, right?
To bring back 90% of your crew.
For the PPP is impossible.
Right.
There's
To
a
get the
new-
PPP, that means you have to go back to work, and they keep extending this rolling closure.
So there's a
Oregon,
new
They've done
quirk
it.
on the PPP.
Excuse me.
Okay, what is
There's a new quirk on the PPP, number 40 to 42 on SBA guidance yesterday at about 3 o'clock, I think it came out. So if you have employees, and so we're supposed to bring everybody back at whatever your February 20th payroll, the one that you sent in with it. If you send letters out and you're saying, I'd like you to come back to work, and your employees refuse to come back to work, which is the issue so many of us are going to find because they're making more on unemployment. They refuse to come back to work. The PPP loans will reduce that FTE requirement. So if half of your staff says they're not going to come back, you've reduced your FTEs in half to qualify for forgiveness on the loan. And you only have to have those employees on your June 30th payroll. We got a PPP loan, and I got them for a couple other restaurants. So I've really been going crazy trying to figure out, what do we do, what don't we do, and we still don't have final guidance in any way, shape, or form, but trying to work around what we have. And that to me was encouraging to people who were thinking, because there are small banks now getting them out. I've talked to quite a few people that have gone to the smaller credit union banks as a small business, and they've been successful getting through the process. And that makes it much simpler to think about using it.
Yes.
But not when the employee is making more money on unemployment.
Huh?
They're not going to, it's like right now, like the guy that owns, what was that? Higgins in Portland. None of his employees are come back because they don't want to apply for the PPE, because the employees are not going to come back for 25% open or 50% open and make less wages.
Yeah.
Not going to.
Or hours or tips.
Right? How are they going to get tips?
I think this is just a real, in the restaurant industry in particular, because 60% of the unemployment right now is in food and beverage nationwide. It's a real issue that we all are trying to figure out, how do we make this work? And I think we all need to keep chatting.
Yeah.
So, okay.
That's what it is.
I'm listening. Keep talking.
I think Claire had a comment on the chat saying that she used United Way, or United Way used the PPP. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that, Claire.
Yeah, so Mark, the United Way of Columbia County is very tiny nonprofit 501c3, 1.5 FTE, and I was able to apply for and receive PPP through En-ROADS Credit Union, but I did it with a lot of support and push from United Way Worldwide. If I didn't have that national support, I probably couldn't have accessed it or wouldn't have known what to ask for when I called my credit union. I wouldn't have known how much to bug them. So my heart really goes out to all kinds of agencies that don't have that much support.
Thank you for that.
Can I
Is
say,
there any way that we can work to use them in a better way for other people?
I think so, yes. We are looking at for the month of June, and it's not soon enough. They were going to be our guest speaker, but we could do something like this again in a couple of weeks and have them on to share, kind of like the requirements or how you go about applying and so forth. I know that they're really open to doing more work like that and communicating more in public forums like this.
I also want to tell people the discussion. I was on this call this morning at 7:30. There is talk, and it looks like, and this is not any guarantee whatsoever, but they have lobbyists working, and they supposedly have movement that PPP loans are going to get extended for at least 12 weeks usage and possibly 16 weeks. Huh?
I'm just
Which
saying,
would-
get away from PPP altogether.
Yeah.
Do something else.
Well, that's what's out there now. That's why I'm kind of,
What would be helpful, Mark, in like a change to PPP, or what sort of program would be helpful?
There is a bill before Congress, the Restaurant Stabilization Act, which is $120 billion, and it would be grants that you would receive monthly, small grants. My understanding is $5,000 to $15,000, $20,000 a month to help restaurants get through this tough time. It's still being all negotiated, but it is something being worked on right now.
Yeah, because we can't be taking out loans.
I agree.
I don't know why the government expects us to take out loans.
Go in debt.
To go in debt, and then they bail out the airline industry.
So Mark, is there I'm just thinking about the requirements you had because of lottery. Is there any way we can work that to get you something?
If we could just go back to work and people can just take their own chances and choose whether or not to come in.
Amen.
I mean,
Right.
everything is fine. And no, we don't need any help,
Yes. And, I was looking at this rates in Columbia County. We're pretty safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We should take the Sweden approach.
Guys, if I could interject for just a second. I'm Trisha. For a few of you I recognize, others I don't. My husband and I own Columbia River Auto Glass here in St. Helens, and I'm popping on because I'm a candidate for commissioner. I'm not trying to give a plug, but that's why I'm participating. I wanted to kind of hear what was going on up there. But we applied for the SBA PPP loan through lendio.com, Lendio. Because when this initially happened, our CPA reached out and said, hey, do this. We don't know how long it's going to last and when the bottom's going to drop out. And none of the credit unions, Inroads, WANA, any of them were supporting small business. We were part of pushing them to get SBA approval. But in the meantime, Lendio works nationwide with all sorts of resources. We've been now approved because it was on a first come, first serve basis. And by the time we found Lendio and got through all that, I was applying. I was constantly on every bank, UMPQUA, US, Chase, everywhere. They weren't doing it for these little guys that use the credit unions in small towns. But Lendio got our application through, and we are literally just waiting to be funded through the new next round. So if you've been turned down or you haven't gotten anywhere, try that and have that as a resource. Lendio.com, and they are official, and they're working on it with other people. So I just wanted to share that in case anybody was credit union and denied, or any other bank that didn't work. It's worth a try.
Say that again. Is it lendio.com you say?
Lendio. I'll type it in the chat just to make sure.
And I will say that this is Monica Seidel from Clatskilling Chamber president. Sorry, I joined late. The UMPQUA Bank was able to actually fund 10,000 of these SBA PPP loans. And if you go to umquabank.com, there's a link that any person, business that's even not UMPQUA Bank customer can apply. And so they've been processing those. There's a couple questions that they ask you, then they send you an email. There's also support emails that you can chat to, but attaching your payroll and your state business registry to prove that you're really in business. There's just a couple basic questions they ask you. They provide kind of a calculation of what you can claim for payroll, and that you're allowed 2.5% 2.5 times. And once that's submitted, it goes through a process. And then I know every business in Clatskanie that has went through us has actually been approved, and half of them, 3/4 of them have already received money into their checking accounts. And so we've been very successful getting those, and I'm able to track those because I can actually see the business, where they're at in the process, if they're awaiting documentation, if it's incomplete, and the next step all the way up to funding.
And that's
Can
great
I
to
say a
know,
plug
but,
for UMPQUA?
UMPQUA was initially not doing anything for anyone that was outside of their bank, as was US, as was Chase and Wells Fargo and Bank of America. And like I said, I went through all of them trying to find someone. So it's good to hear that they finally opened up. But unfortunately, the first round of funds were gone. So we have to wait until they refund it again.
I'll just put a plug in. I know that WANA, Inroads, and Fiber are all doing them as well.
Yes, they are now. Yeah.
It took some time probably to get the resources figured out to start doing all these things. They're all pretty small institutions. So
if anybody wants to call me,
that's important.
if anybody wants to call me, I got quite a few through UMPQUA. I'd be happy to walk you through everything you need. And the minute you get on, it's about a 8-minute process as long as you have everything ready to go. So,
yeah, it's really quick and seamless, and lots of instructions along the way.
And I didn't have to do anything afterwards.
Yeah.
Everything, as long as you get everything uploaded right in the beginning, they just went through lickety split. So
Mark, I have a quick question that you might be able to speak to. I'm wondering if you have any information on what the, the word loan is really scary, and forgivable loan seems really like a magical, mystical thing that we don't know what's going to happen. Are there so far anything around what the reporting or requirements are going to be, how we're going to prove that we spent it appropriately, what that forgivable piece is going to look like or feel like? I think for a lot of small business owners, that is a scary thing to jump into without a lot of information. Do you have any more information?
That's a really good question. I have not seen a lot of hard facts on, how that's going to work. I hear how, parts of it will be forgiven in with the EIDL loan and with the PPP, and how it's supposed to be running, and that, someone mentioned how they were extending some of those rules and all. I don't know. You hear about these huge businesses that have gotten these loans, half of the money going to people that really it wasn't intended for. And, they're going to, claw that back. Well, I think what is important is that you document, that you have good documentation for what you did and what rules you understood at the time, so that you can prove that you acted with good intentions, given the information that was published at the time.
can I give a couple of advice that I heard from
Monica, you may know more on that.
The documentation we were told was 75% needs to go to payroll, and they need to make sure that they track that. 25% can be used for rent, lease, cell phone or phone bills, internet bills, those types of things. But as long as the business is tracking and monitoring that and ready to submit that before the repayment timeframe, then that's what, up until last week, that was the information that we had been given.
That sounds right.
We were given the advice from UMPQUA and also from our accountant. We have a separate account for the PPP money, so there's no commingling of funds, so that then when we have to represent how we spent the money, we don't have any issues that it went to other things. So we have separate accounts, and the payroll is still going to be paid out of the regular account, but then we'll take the payroll report, reimburse the regular account, attach that, and have a separate file that we're putting everything in every time we pay a bill. You cannot prepay. I heard that today. That was you can't prepay any of your utilities or whatever, but they're 90% certain, and this was from the conference call I was on today, they're 90% certain that they are going to allow, if you paid in, say you got your money April 25th, because you have 60 days from the date you get the money. Then if you take and you had a utility bill that was March and April, you paid it in April, they're pretty certain that they're going to allow both March and April, as long as that 25%, you're not spending over 25% of the money on utilities, et cetera. There are still no guidelines from the SBA. So the SBA guy at the gal up in Washington, she told me, she said, Susan, I'm telling you, I think you guys are all doing the right thing, but just document, and have everything in a separate file. Pay it out of there directly. Do not pay things out of your regular account, reimburse except for your payroll, because there's no reason to set up a new account and have new checks printed for payroll.
And those loans are going to be excused, going to be.
So that is all forgivable.
Okay.
So it's really not a loan. And our accountant is telling us, and you know, everybody has to take a different stance at it, but we're looking in some places where we're getting like 60, 70,000, and we're going to take 10,000 and we're going to repay it as a 1% interest loan. And it's due over 24 months, 6 months without payments, and then 18 months at 1%. I don't think there's going to be an extension on that, even though there's been some discussion. But we're going to need to buy more supplies, all the PPE stuff. We might need to buy more tables. We might have to have some barriers that we build. And we know we're going to have some extraordinary expenses to reopen. So we are making a conscious decision that some of it we're going to spend as an unforgivable portion of the loan. And I think that every business, or you can choose, if you don't use it all, to repay it, and then you get that portion forgiven and repay what you don't want to use. But 1% money to me is kind of a cheap thing when we're all going, how am I going to buy? When we're reopening the restaurants, we haven't been doing as much volume. You're going to have to buy more food. You have to, you know, all the stuff that we use in-house that we're not using on takeout that we've kind of drained down using it right now. So just a thought.
Thanks, Susan, for that good experience. That's very helpful.
Susan, I think you missed your calling potentially as a professional baker. I see Monica like nodding. Yep, thank you. You got
I have been picking brains everywhere, okay? Yeah. And I'm not trying to take over, but I just try to share what I've learned so far.
Well, I'm just wondering, Mark, if you guys, if there's a way to look at this in a different way, that where it could pencil and it could be forgivable for you, get some cash.
Yeah, we went to Inroads right away, but at that time, I guess because they said no, they weren't doing it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So we went too soon.
Vicki and Mark, I'd be happy to sit with you and just kind of go over your situation and help you pencil it out. Having been in the business forever with the restaurants, you know, I used to own 40 restaurants. So I'd be happy to, you know, call me and we can sit down and just kind of do a quick chat to see if you think it might work for you.
Cool.
Run numbers and stuff. Okay.
All right.
All right.
I would recommend that. I think she would have an ability to say, yeah, this will work, or let's work the lottery this way, and let's do it in this way to where it's, I'm speaking for you, Susan, but
Thank you.
You could do it in a way where you're going to get money and it's not going to need to be repaid.
And probably another round with inroads and also UMPQUA.
Yeah.
Like pull all of those resources together to kind of.
And if I can say something,
look.
UMPQUA has been sending me emails at 2 a.m. They are working round the clock on these.
1 month ago, exactly, on that Friday, they decided to pull every staff member that they could, and they were honestly paying employees time and a half to work 24 hours a day and process every single thing that they possibly could as fast as they possibly could. And so they set up a number of departments, and they pulled every single employee from every location that they could to look at these loans. And so by the time that the money had ran out, we had front loaded so many loans. And then when the money ran out and they were voting to reallocate more money to reopen it, yes, they still kept bringing on. And at first, of course, the initial reaction was, we're going to help our customers first, and we're going to help non-customers second. And so that was the direction that they went, is first customers and then everybody else. And they literally got through enough loans that they did start processing non-customers, and then they just went, we're opening this up for everybody. We're not going to discriminate, and we're not going to not help somebody that needs it. And so they, like I said, they were able to process and fund over 10,000 loans. And this department within UMPQUA last year, in the entire year, did 150 loans for 1.5 million. This year, they've cleared 10,000 loans in that same department. And I think they're at $2 billion that has been secured through UMPQUA. And so, yeah, every person that I was talking to was working double shifts, graveyard shifts, and we're sending emails at 2 o'clock in the morning saying, this is what we need. This is incomplete. As soon as you get this email, get it to me, because then you're next in line. And so everybody that could send a complete package got straight through to the SBA. Everybody that was missing information got 2 o'clock in the morning emails, because East Coast banks stopped processing when they closed their doors. I don't know what it is about what was happening, but on the East Coast, when the banks closed, they stopped processing SBA loans for those types of banks. They weren't running 24 hours a day. So it was like the floodgates opened on that SBA very narrow channel of everybody uploading. I know you guys probably realize the second time that they opened it, it crashed the system in 4 minutes because of everybody trying to shove what had been being collected and just waiting for those floodgates to open. And when they opened, it crashed the system in 4 minutes. And so it was neat to see, though, how many people had rallied at that point and pulled it together, and then were able to flood the system again. So,
and I have to tell you, even if you have your loans all the way in, everything correct, I'm still getting emails at 2 in the morning because it's paperwork to sign, which is fine. I'm okay.
Are you up at 2?
I'm usually up at 1 and I'm asleep, and I hear my phone and I wake up and go, what is it? Yeah.
Let me see, I think this is part of what, when we talk about us as a community and us as chambers for Rainier and Clatskanie, I want to make sure that we, through our network, reach every business that has we all agree the money resources we're getting isn't great. But I want to make sure that everyone that can take advantage of this is, and how we work together as a community of businesses to find to look after each other and to help make sure we've all got, we're all doing this and we're doing it together.
I would say that on behalf of Rainier Chamber, we've really felt over the course of the last couple of years that we want to be a convener of these type of topics that are going to add real economic value to our members. And so, one, I would say, at first blush, it's really good that we recorded this, because we didn't have super strong attendance. And I think that's just due to some businesses being open, people not available at this time. So we're going to share that. Secondly, I think what happened just now between Cornerstone and with Susan, I think is a real affirmation that we need a hell of a lot more than this. And so I'm open to talking about what that's going to look like here in the near future to keep the ball rolling for people to be able to share their best practices, because all of us are trying to be creative, but sometimes it's hearing someone else's story to kind of think a little bit differently as well too. So I'd like to facilitate this again in another capacity in a couple of weeks. Mark, if you would be available, and then we can kind of see what people have to say after they watch this recording, and maybe there's more dialogue online in the interim.
Yeah.
I'd love to see everybody start making lists of things that you think you need to try, or ideas that you think might help your business get moving forward, because we're only as strong as the weakest link. And we need to have all of us open, all of us thriving, to make the community thrive, to provide jobs for everyone, to be able to take care of the members of our community. And I am such a firm believer we have to share. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's all just improve upon it and help each other.
Yeah, if there's a way we can brainstorm, how can I open? What can I do? What am I going to need? And we can start talking that through and sharing that together as a community of businesses, so that, you know, I don't want us to lose anybody. I want us all to be able to come back, because we're going to get past this. That's the way we work, and we've got to help each other through this, because and you know, everyone that's home, they're locked in, they're worried, and as we open and lead out and people know things are safe, we're going to be, you know, coming along like we should. Mm-hmm. But I want to make sure that we've got any businesses that haven't worked with their bank, that don't qualify or think they don't qualify, we can start working together to figure out how to help them get what they need right now.
Yeah. So are there any guidelines yet? What the guidelines are going to be? Do we know?
Well, there's draft guidelines that are out there.
Okay.
You know, the state parks are going to start opening, I think today or tomorrow, slowly. Yeah. There are parts of it are, you know, how I don't have them in front of me. I just glanced at them, but it's like, you know, a county can open if, you know, it has had no infection, no new cases for a week or two. You know, there's that type of stuff where it may be, you know, slowly based on what's happening. Next week, I think testing is going to start happening, you know, where the state gets, you know, 100,000 volunteers to be tested, and then they start tracking. You know, so it's gonna be slowly, so that we can have a high degree of confidence as citizens that we're safe and that we can go out.
I have one of the things I read was that because we are so close to Washington County and Multnomah County, and so many people in our county work outside of the county, that we are going to be in the opening plans of those counties. We are not going to be able to carve out because of that.
Susan, Margaret Magruder spoke to that yesterday on Facebook, and she said that, yes, unfortunately, Governor Brown decided to loop Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook counties with Multnomah and Washington counties. However, if we meet the criteria individually as a county, then we can bump up, and we don't have to do the same type of openings as Multnomah and Washington counties. I was hoping to get a hold of her before our chamber meeting tomorrow to get some clarification on that. And so I'm hoping to be able to share that in the Clatskanie chamber meeting that we have tomorrow as a Zoom meeting.
Natasha, what were you going to say?
Just real quick, I want to let you know that there's a lot of discussion going on right now as far as when we're going to open, when is this information going to be available. I know that Governor Brown has a press conference tomorrow, so I'm watching for that. I think it's at 11. what else? The biggest thing right now that they're working on is sector guidelines for personal services. I think everybody's really pushing for that, even though that's in phase 2. So while they're working on wrapping up phase 1, right, sector guidelines, they're working on those phase 2 already. That's just something I wanted to mention. I don't know, I had a couple other thoughts too, but there's a lot going on.
So from discussions all of you have had, I'm guessing early is June 1st for restaurants. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that?
Remember, you have to go through phase 1. There's
I know. That's why I'm saying
that issue there, and there's a lot
earliest.
Yeah, so they're really not setting any any dates or any outlining. Yeah, it's just press release Thursday. We'll know more.
Yeah.
The Chronicle has done a really great job of publishing the rough drafts of each of the phases, and weekly I'm seeing more information in there. So there's a deck, so anybody can go and find that. If you just go onto the Chronicles Facebook page, you can find that information. So
and
I do know what I was going to say. I'm sorry. The regions that we're in, as far as they're all set aside 10 years ago for the emergency management. So those aren't something that, have just been decided. That was just decided a long time ago why we're in that Portland region. That's what I wanted to say.
okay.
Yep.
Mark, just in the essence of time, I think we've had some really great dialogue, but in the interim, Clatskanie and Rainier Chamber can kind of have some one-off dialogue around what we will do next to help support our members and get kind of another forum happening. I think we need to do these more frequently, but can you share your contact information, and are you kind of looking for small business owners to call you and set up an appointment to talk further, or what does that look like for now?
I would love people to email me or call me.
Okay.
Either way, and I hope at some point that we can, start to have meetings with appropriate social distance, face-to-face meetings and in the communities, and look at businesses and talk through how to help. My contact information is on the Port's website. My email address is Ellsworth at Port of Columbia County .org, and my cell phone number is 503-369-4827. I had to look at it I haven't got it memorized yet. Just got my phone this week.
That's okay. Email is Mark Ellsworth at portofcolumbiacounty.org is what I have here.
It's just Ellsworth at.
Okay.
But I'm gonna be in Clatskanie this evening, just to the council meeting, and I would at some point I'd appreciate the opportunity to meet with the chamber too.
Yes.
When that works.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think
and then to have, to be able to be a lurker in following meetings, to with you all to see how we're doing and how I can help.
Great. Yes, please. Next week, May 14th at 12:15 p.m., we have kind of our traditional monthly membership meeting. Senator Betsy Johnson is going to be our guest speaker. We're not going to have our kind of round robin of 30-second commercials during that time. However, at 1:15, we might be able to push out that meeting further for people that have the bandwidth or time to kind of connect. Mark, if you're available to kind of share further, that might be really great. I can kind of look to see if from a Zoom availability perspective, we can do that, or maybe we can have a meeting right thereafter with you.
That'd be great.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that there was a lot of really great information shared today and some really good, strong connectivity, and we'll make sure to record this. Any last minute thoughts, Mark, as we wrap this up?
No, I just want to make sure, I want to make sure everyone who is in need, we can work on helping them together.
I'm in full agreement. most definitely. And I would just say, if you didn't catch Mark's contact information here, we will make sure it's available through Clatskanie and Rainier Chambers Facebook pages and social media, as well as I believe we can post that through our website as well too. So thank you all for your time today. I appreciate each and every one of you, and it was really great to partner with Clatskanie Chamber of Commerce as well. So take care, be well, talk soon.